the bulk of my conversations with young men, like under the age of 30, is around porn. They have to orgasm at the same time.
Ah.
If they don't, it's a big failure.
They'll be like, oh, they couldn't get hard. Fuck that guy.
Thinking, like, when's the first time I really saw sex? And it was Titanic. When do they do sex ed? I don't even know anymore.
So in Ontario, we start like quite young in kindergarten, and that's discussions around consent. Like, that's like, you guys look so shocked.
Hey, Layla, you look great. I don't know what your conversation is about being tired and stuff, but you look phenomenal.
I'm very tired all the
You know,
time.
I'd love to stay on video call with you afterwards, video chat, if you're
I'm
down.
sure you would, you fucking weirdo.
Okay, yeah. Um,
Oh,
Hi,
hello,
Sabrina.
Sabrina.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt.
Welcome to the show. We didn't see you there. You know, well, Layla and I get on video once a day, and we just tell each other we look great.
That's it.
Oh,
And,
It's
and
our
now we
these
want
are
to eat
daily
each other.
affirmations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when someone tells you you're hot, you feel hot, and then you approach the
Mm-hmm.
world that way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
I
good
think I
morning,
think you
Brian. You're
like if
still
you have an
fuckable.
accountability partner in your life, like get on a
Mm-hmm.
call with them, 7 a.m. You know what? You look hot today, Sabrina.
Oh, thank you. I know,
Looking
but
so
thanks.
hot and sexy. Love
You
that.
know, but it's helpful. But we're excited to have
Yes.
you here. Glad that y'all reached out
Yeah.
because we hopped on your TED Talk and gave it a listen. So before you jump in, what do people need to know about you before we hop into the call? If you had a 30-second intro for yourself, what would you
30-second
say?
intro. Okay, I will try to wrap it up because I get so excited talking about sex, but I'm a self-described sex nerd. Like, I am so interested in sex and sexuality. I've been teaching sex ed to kids because that's the only avenue you really have, like in schools, high schools, university level for years, for close to a decade. And then COVID hit. And I think, like a lot of people, I had a crisis of identity and professional, like, what am I doing with my life? Went back to school, went back to grad school and got a graduate degree in sexual health and rehabilitative medicine, started my TikTok, started my podcast, and I called it All After Sex Ed because after years of teaching sex ed to kids in classrooms, I always noticed that the adults had just as many questions as the kids. Whenever I'd wrap up a lesson, they'd pull me aside. It was anything from, I've never used a tampon, can you show me how, to, my wife and I had a baby 2 years ago, haven't had sex since, or like, if I wanted to open up my marriage, could you be the one to help me with that? So I just always saw this really big appetite for adult sex education. And then here I am. In a nutshell.
There we go. Now look, I already have a burning question because I don't have kids. Layla does,
Uh-huh.
but your kids are so young, Layla, that I don't. They're not doing sex ed yet, right? Sex ed's a
Right.
high school, middle school thing, or high school. When do they do sex ed? I don't even know anymore.
You're asking me. I'm from Toronto.
Yeah.
I'm from Canada. So you make it palatable for each age group. So in Ontario, which is the province that I live in, we start like quite young in kindergarten. And that's discussions around consent. Like, that's like, you guys look so shocked. I mean, but
Yeah, we are
it's
shocked.
okay. I mean,
Kindergarten.
No. I mean,
It's
this will be good.
discussions.
Let her cook.
Okay, no, it's mostly like it's palatable. You make it palatable for the age group. Okay, I should backtrack a second because Ontario has sex ed of a different nature, perhaps, of the states. And it is province by province in the same way that it is for you. So I know that different states have different laws around sex ed. I'm going to go ahead and assume, based on what I've seen coming from your country. And I am not a middle school teacher. Like, I'm not a high school teacher. So there's two kinds of sex ed that kind of exist in Ontario. One is it's your high school gym teacher who gets like kind of voluntold, is like, okay, you're going to do condoms. That's it. And that's like, that's core subject. That's core sex ed. And then there's teacher prompt. So anything that the teacher gets asked outside of core, like, they can actually say yes or no to those topics, which is like a whole other issue. But if teachers, let's say, feel uncomfortable with certain topics like gender identity, consent, porn literacy, whatever, they can hire a community educator, which is me. So there's all different kinds of charities, NGOs, standalone educators that if you go online and you look, okay, Sabrina knows a lot about porn literacy or Sabrina knows a lot about consent, we can bring her into the school and she can teach. So but Ontario is kind of bananas around sex ed, like very bananas. So like there was a lot of controversy around it like 10 years ago. I don't want to like get too into it, but we have a very kind of aggressively conservative premier. That's like the governor. Like it's so he was really aggressively conservative. He gutted our sex ed around 2015, and then there was massive walkouts, like massive strikes. The students walked out, the teachers walked out, and then it pushed the needle to get consent in, to reinstate the curriculum. The kids were really instrumental, like really instrumental. And then, so now we have sex ed in Ontario, which is very, very structured. So, like kindergarten, yes, it starts there, but you have to you have to color in the lines. So, for kindergarten, as an example, and I'm not a huge expert on it because I'm more university level, high school, but kindergarten is boundaries, bodies, like names, the proper names of the things in your body, and like the proper names of genitals, and setting boundaries. Like, I want to give you an example. Like when I was a kid, like my family, if I went to a family function, they'd be like, go kiss Grandpa Joe, go hug Uncle John, and you just
Mhm.
had to do that. So now that's like not being taught, I would say, even like personally in households, but also in the curriculum. So we're telling kids like your body is your own. So if someone says, hey, you have to go hug Grandpa Joe or go sit in Uncle John's lap, you say no because it's
Mhm.
my body. So that's the kind of stuff that's being taught at the kindergarten level, which I would say is bodily autonomy
Mhm.
and proper like anatomy, proper
Wow.
names of the parts. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I've always taught my kids, the proper names of their genitals. I've also, I think because we've been in the lifestyle for so long, like we do
Mhm.
recognize like the importance of consent. And
Yeah.
even my parents will be like, all right, give us a hug and kiss. And I'm like,
Mhm.
only if they want to,
Yeah.
and even
Yeah.
my parents will be like, oh no, they should always and I'm like, I have to teach my parents what
Mhm.
consent is for my kids, you
Yes.
know? It's wild.
Yes. I feel like just because you're older doesn't mean you know everything. And like very often I'm saying this in classes, like just because someone's old doesn't mean that they know everything or are very mature. Like maturity is something that you like work towards. Anyways, that's a whole
Right.
other conversation
It's
around
it's
treating someone with respect.
it's interesting though. I've never thought about it like that with my nieces. When I show up, they're like, my sister's always saying, "You'll give Uncle Brian a hug," and
Mhm.
I just know in my mind, kids don't like pressure,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you tell them, "Hey, give me or even doesn't even have to be a hug. It can be a fist bump. Sometimes you try to high five a
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
and they don't want to do it. I'm not gonna make them
Yeah.
do it.
For
They'll
Right.
come
sure.
around when they want to, but I never thought about that as a form of consent. The kid saying no,
Mhm.
don't
Yeah.
make the kid
Consent is
do it.
everywhere. Like when you really sit, like I'm so steeped in this world. I have a child as well. We were talking about this. I don't really talk about it much online, but I've been talking about consent from a really young age in that way, that I'm so aware of it, that he gets asked to do things like go kiss grandma all the time, like since he was really young, and my partner and I have been like, stop. Like
Mhm.
if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to, and he should learn that from a really young age, that he calls the shots, because he does.
I even go an extra element sometimes, like, I'll go, like, and it might even be silly, but I'll be laying on the couch with my kids, and I'll be kind of, like, rubbing their head, and I'm like, "Does this feel good to you?" I'm
Hmm.
like, "Is
Hmm.
this does this feel good to you?" And sometimes they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Okay." And
Yeah.
sometimes they're like, "Yeah, no, this feels good." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, like, I'll keep going." But, like, I'm
Yeah.
constantly kind of, like, checking in with them so that way when they do get older, they can be like, "I don't think I like this, please stop." And they'll
Yeah.
tell me
Yeah.
that, like, I'll be holding their hand somewhere, and they're like, "I don't wanna hold your hand anymore." And I'm like, "Okay."
Is there
Yeah.
anything, Layla, in school similar to what Sabrina's talking about that your kids
No,
went through in
not for
California?
my kids'
No.
age, not at all.
Nothing,
Mm-mm.
eh?
No, and my
Yeah.
kid's
Right.
7 years old going into 2nd grade, and they don't have any conversations like this.
I
You're in
want to say,
California?
Yeah.
yeah, we're in California. I want to look. I mean, we're a little older now, but
Yeah.
I want to say the first time I experienced sex ed was so I grew up in the inner city in LA, and when we were in middle school, they were trying to get kids to stop fucking, so you
Okay.
stop getting pregnant, right?
Jesus.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so they had these like robot babies we had to take home for 3 nights, and
Wow.
and yeah, they were actual baby dolls, but they had some sort of robotics in it where like randomly it would start crying. And the only way to get it to stop crying was you had this like key around your wrist and you'd put it in the back of the baby and turn it and you had to hold it in there. And it was like a random ass algorithm. So you might have to hold the key in there for 5 minutes, or it could be like an hour at 3 in the morning. And they were trying to train you that if you have a baby at 3 in the morning, it'll just wake
Yeah.
you up and you got to stay up with it to keep it awake. And if you flip the baby on its like if you put the face down in the pillow, it would register that and you would get a grade at the end of the 3 days on how you took care of the baby. That is, and it is it oh, this is why I don't have kids, I think I was traumatized by that whole thing. But that was the first sex ed I remember, and it must have been 7th grade. So it took a long time.
Wow.
I was 12 at that point. It takes a while.
I have like mixed, I feel like that sounds familiar. We had the egg project in grade 10 where we had to carry around an egg with us and not break it for like a week. And it was like somewhat tied into biology. I don't know that it was like necessarily sex ed. It was more like family studies
Mm,
and you're responsible for this egg. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about this doll thing because that is real world, like, yeah, that is what a baby is like, but also that's like really scary. It's like
right.
really fear mongering kind
And
of.
that's how the US, I
Yeah.
think, handles it. I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up in the Bible Belt, like down in the South. I went to a private Christian school, so we didn't talk
Okay.
about sex at all because you're
Mm,
waiting until marriage. So why do you
yeah.
care? Right? Like
Yeah.
we're all waiting
Yeah.
until marriage. We're not going to talk about it. And then when I finally ended up going to a public school for high school, the only thing that they taught us was they would show, and again, it was the PE teacher, and he
Yeah.
would show us
Yeah.
pictures of STDs and
Yeah.
STIs.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
And
That
the
it's
biological version of it, the microbe of it is what they would show you.
they would show us full-blown genitals, and they're like, "This is
yeah.
Oh,
herpes." And they're like, "Don't even fucking think about it." You know? That was it. That was it.
There's basically like two kinds of sex ed for your own knowledge. One is harm based, and that's what you're talking about. And that's what I was exposed to too in Toronto. And I think people tend to view Toronto as this like cosmopolitan Canada sex positive, but like I grew up in the 90s. Like it wasn't great. And I went to Catholic school. So like two thumbs down, like way down.
Right.
It wasn't good. So it was all fear mongering. So they scared us. And there was pictures of genital warts. But I
Mhm.
also, because I grew up in the 90s, AIDS and HIV was kind of like everywhere. It was in the ecosystem. And there was a lot of like, you're going to get AIDS. Like that's just what's going to happen. So there's like a lot of fear based. So that's one kind of sex ed, which I'm not really in favor of. I don't necessarily run from consequence. Like I do know that sex has consequences, and I think everyone should understand that. But then there's sex positive, and that's the other side of the coin, which is that sex is a fun experience and it's healthy for you. And it's not a shameful thing. If you start thinking it's shameful, then you might let someone treat you badly. And also, you might treat somebody badly if your relationship with sex is like bad. Don't do it, you know?
so
Anyways, it's
this
a
is
big
interesting.
topic.
I think it's a good transition because we grew up in I would say I grew up in the 90s. I was lucid in the
Mhm.
Yeah.
90s, and I remember not knowing who Magic Johnson was, but I remember when he got the diagnosis, and
Yes.
and
Wow.
how huge of a deal that was. And so we grew up in this kind of culture where we, 9/11, AIDS, like these like major
Yeah.
mental setting things. But you do a lot of coaching work with young men who are
Mhm.
under the age of 30 right now. So
Yeah.
what is they probably didn't grow up with that same conversation.
Yeah.
What are the conversations you're seeing that are the narratives that run them that's different from
I
what ran us?
like right off the jump, like right off the jump, and it's a big topic. I'd say the bulk of my conversations with young men, like under the age of 30, is around porn literacy. And I didn't really think that when I got into sex coaching that I would spend so much time talking about porn, but it's really consumed a lot of the conversations because again, I think we're all elder millennials, are we? Not that you have
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
reveal your ages, but I feel
Yes.
like we're all like born in the 80s, perhaps somewhere in there. And I had access to porn, but I had to go searching for it. Like I had to go find it. And we had a cable box, an illegal cable box. And then at 11 p.m. in Toronto, like the baby blues would come on. And we also have a big French community, and you know how the French are. So like the French movies would come on and like, and that's how I saw porn. So I wouldn't, if I like reflect back on my sex ed, like how did I learn about sex, which is a big question. Porn is in there, but it's like not a big influence. Like it wasn't a big influence for me. And I would say broadly, my like 40 plus year old clients, and I have some for sure that are even 60 plus, porn isn't this massive influence that shaped the way that they think that people are supposed to have sex. But under 30, yeah. Yeah. Like I think it's a big influence. It's like how they think it's supposed to go, despite them insisting very often, my young male clients that like, no, I know that porn isn't real. But then when you dig, it's like, I think you do. I think there's parts of it where you haven't separated entertainment from reality, if
Mhm.
that's
Yeah,
makes
what are
sense.
those differences? Like, what are these men saying, "Oh, like, I've learned that sex needs to be like this," and you're like, "Actually," like, what are
I
those some of
like
those things?
off the jump, like having an erection for a really long time. So like when people come into sex coaching, there's usually a problem that I can think of. I've only had one client in my life, and he was really lovely that didn't really have a problem. He was just like, I want to talk, I want to get better at sex, and I want to be a better person, and I'm just going to bear it all. But and in a perfect world, we're all doing that. We're all just trying to be better. But people usually come into sex coaching or sex therapy for an issue that they have, and so it's not really uncommon that a lot of my male clients will come in thinking they have a disorder. So they'll think they have erectile dysfunction, or they'll think they have premature ejaculation. And then the more that we talk, and the more that we talk about their influences, like how they learned about sex, the more that they're thinking, oh, you're like supposed to maintain an erection for X amount of time, like when no erections they come and go, or this like I everyone's got a philosophy on sex. You've got a philosophy, I've got one. So very often with all my clients, I'll ask them like, what is sex and how do you define it? And very often, especially my young male clients, if we're talking specifically about them, they'll insist, like, I don't think it's a penis goes into a vagina. It's, and most of my clients are straight. I should say that. I should preface all of this by saying that they're cishet. Most of my, if not all of my clients, especially the male ones, are cisgendered and heterosexual. So, anyways, they'll define sex as, not a penis goes into a vagina. They're like, it's a bunch of activities where people can have fun, and they'll swear that's it. They'll be like, I don't think it's this. No, no, like I can do more things. And then when you start talking to them about like the issue they have, or very often I'll ask them like, I have a video camera in your head and I'm watching you do it. Who's initiating? How does it go? What's the sequence? And when you run into this problem, quote unquote, like what happens? Walk me through it. Just very often, I know it's like a long, like they are truly defining sex as P and V. Like they really feel like they have failed. There's nothing else that they can do. They don't understand why it's not working, and they have convinced themselves that either A, there's something wrong with them, or B, they must not love their partners. Maybe that's it. And it's like, well,
Mm,
I don't know. Like I can't answer that. I can't
right,
answer that for you. But do like erections equal love? Is that what you like
right.
honestly think?
Yeah,
It's
and I think
lots
it's
of deep
beyond
diving.
it's beyond porn,
Yeah.
I think, too. Like, I think that
Yeah.
because there are women, there's one I'm thinking of in my head, Brian, you know exactly who I'm talking about, where they'll be like, oh, they couldn't get hard. Fuck that guy. He couldn't
Yeah.
get hard
Yeah.
for me. Fuck him. Because they're so stupid, not educated. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just like super triggered by this person. But like, I think that that's so upsetting when women are like,
Yeah.
oh, they couldn't get hard, like, couldn't get hard for me. So they're not into me. And they'll
Yeah.
make that person feel bad or,
Yeah.
embarrassed. And so this is more than just porn. I think like we all need to be educated, men, women, whoever, right? Like,
Oh, it transcends porn. Porn is just like a symptom of it. Like, so when you're asking like what am I dealing with most? I feel like porn is the springboard. Like that's usually what they're like kind of coming in for. Usually there's like an issue, like premature ejaculation, ED, that's what they're thinking, but then porn is always the next stop in my experience. But then it's this. Then it's like it has more to do with your concept of what sex is. You also haven't really had very supportive partners, and that
mhm,
also sucks, like to be berated and judged for not being able to maintain an erection is like, that's not how you get more erections. That's going to screw
right?
you up.
Not at
Like,
all.
that's not, yeah.
I'm glad you
Not
said
at
that because
all.
I was wondering how much of it was formed by porn, how much of it is formed by the experiences I've had with women, right?
Yeah.
And what you just said, because I know who you're talking about, Layla. We
Mm.
won't say names, but they never look at themselves in that, right? It's always something wrong with the guy. There's something wrong with him because
Yeah.
he wasn't hard for me. They never look at
Yeah.
it like, oh man, there's something about me, right? Maybe I just don't turn this guy on. But what is the X though? What is the? You said this like 5 minutes ago, so this is a callback. But I need to be hard for X amount of time. What are
Yeah.
the times that you're hearing from the guys?
It's so varied. It's so varied. Oh, I want to say like that's the thing. Like if I'm working with a couple, it's not especially because they're all straight. Most of my couple, all my couples are straight. So very often I'll do like one joint session together and then the next two are like separate and then they like come together again. So like from his perspective, like how long would you like to have penetrative sex for? And he's like upwards of 15 to 25 minutes. And then his partner's like 5. Like we're
Mhm.
fine. I'm fine. Like I'm fine. And it's not unusual that they'll say like he's going to tell you half an hour. Like that's I'm good. So yeah, it varies. Like it varies. Sometimes I'll have men say like, well, I want to last longer because I want her to have fun, but he's not really communicating clearly with her that like penetrative sex is more like a cherry on top. That's how they're framing it. I've had several so be respectful so I don't like reveal too much, but it's not unusual that men will as far as being able to last long like that, like the quantify it
Right.
if there's a position that their partner really likes, they want to last in that position the maximum amount of time. And they have to like keep going at it, and they'll be like, I have to be able to draw that out as much as possible. Like, which is like, I think, again, communicating, talking, breathing, stuff like that. I just don't think there's anything wrong. Here's what I'm trying to say there's nothing wrong with seeing your partner get really excited and then it excites you back, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh my God, they're going to have an orgasm. I'm freaking out now. Like that. Right. And they're like, something must be wrong with me. Like, nothing is wrong with you. Like, it's you that seeing somebody have an orgasm that you're responsible for is incredibly impactful, like incredibly, Does that make
Layla, you're
sense?
Layla, you're laughing a lot too. Is it when she said 5 minutes, you were like, uh-huh, uh-huh. Do you, do you
Because you
agree with
know
that?
me, yes, I don't like having sex longer than like 15, 20 minutes. I really don't.
Mhm.
And so when
Yeah.
these guys are like, "Oh, yeah, we're gonna do it all night." I'm like, "Please, no." Like,
Yeah.
like, I'm down to do some foreplay and kinda, like, be like, "Yeah, whatever," and then have sex and then go do something else, And Brian will have sex with people for, like, 45 minutes, an hour, like, whatever the fuck, but, like, I'm done. I'm
I will.
tired. My work here is done. I don't wanna do this anymore. So when guys are like, "I wanna last," like, we'll be having sex for 5 minutes, and if a guy,
Yeah.
like, exits my body because he's like, "Oh, sorry, I don't wanna come yet," I'm like, oh, I think that's so hot. I think
Yeah.
it's so hot because 'cause I'm like, "Ooh, oh, is this gonna make you come? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry." Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I think it's hot when guys are like, "Ooh, I'm about to come." It could be
Yeah.
2 minutes in. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Do it, because we can have sex again later."
Yeah. This is the conversation I have with a lot of young men in particular. Like, if they're doing it, like if they think they have premature ejaculation, and very oftentimes they don't. But if it's this, like as soon as we start doing it, like I think I'm gonna come, it's so embarrassing. So then I stop and I do other things. I'm like, but if you ever vocalize that and said that out loud, like this is so good. You're so hot. I can't do this for very long. You excite me too much. Do you understand that that's like really disarming for lots of women? They might appreciate that. Like it's not a flaw you have. If anything, it's like really cute. It's really
Yes,
cute. And it can create this like teasing kind of atmosphere. Like what? Like what? Like what can
yes,
I do? Yeah, it's not
uh-huh.
like a weakness. If anything, it's
No,
fun.
I agree. So, like,
Yeah.
anytime a guy's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry I came too fast," I'm just like, I thought that was really hot. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Like you're so into me that like you
Yeah.
came super fast. I don't know. I've never been upset about somebody coming too fast ever in my life.
That's me too. But maybe that I don't like. There's everybody's different. Everybody's different. Of course, if there's like a pattern happening for a really long time, it's a different. If it's a different thing, but but I don't necessarily see being really excited or needing to take breaks, or telling your partner, hold on, like what you're doing is too good as this bad thing. Whereas unfortunately, a lot of young men see it that way. Like going
Mhm.
kind of back to porn and what their relationship is with sex. They're like, I'm just supposed to just like be able to just keep going, right? Like, no.
Right, but you probably love that feedback loop. I know when I say like, "Oh, I'm not gonna last very long," or "Oh, we gotta slow down in this position," the other person usually thinks it's pretty hot.
Oh,
It's a
literally,
hot
I just
thing to
I
do.
Yeah.
got, like, butterflies just by you saying those words out loud. Literally, I think it's so hot,
Oh,
like, I'm not gonna last long.
now I
Ah,
know what to say.
Okay.
So Layla, after this call, I'm gonna need you to stay on, but I'm not gonna last very long.
so bad.
As we're talking about this, Sabrina, you're having me think about my own as a man, right? Like my
Yeah.
formative experience, and I do like more connected sex than
Mhm.
and like you said, porn was harder. I remember the first time I downloaded porn, it was like pictures, and I put them on a floppy disk. That's how old I am,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was off LimeWire. But um, but now I'm thinking, like, when's the first time I really saw sex? And it was Titanic.
That's
It
like
was an
such an integral part of my like sex
It was and I
education. Yeah.
remember I remember my parents went to see the movie first, and they had this discussion on whether they thought because it was such a huge movie back then, and,
Mhm.
kids today don't really realize that. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you haven't seen Titanic,
Yeah.
should go watch it.
Yeah, they
And,
die.
It stinks.
and
Okay.
I'm gonna mention a scene, but there's a lot of foreplay because he
Yeah.
spoiler alert, paints a very erotic photo, I mean,
Yeah.
not photo, he hand draws
Mhm.
her,
Mhm.
sketches,
Yeah.
right? um, he's an artist, and then they run from a cigar, end up in someone's car, and then it's like a really hot, steamy. I don't know why it was so steamy, right? It was
It was
cold
so
outside.
steamy though.
It was
It was
so
very
steamy,
steamy.
which does happen in cars. I'm
But
laughing,
I
but that was my first image of like, okay, it's this connected, intense, sweaty thing, right?
Mm.
yeah.
Um, and so that is for, but I can see how what young men got is that they didn't get Titanic, they got uh,
Yeah.
you know, xnxx.com,
Yeah.
right? And the
Mhm.
scenes are
Mhm.
very structured. Blowjob, you have
Yeah.
sex, these five positions. The scenes are all somehow they're always like 20 minutes long, 20, 25 minutes long,
Yeah.
right? They crop it
Yeah.
that way. And then come shot and then the come shot ends it. And so I wonder if part of it is also for people who don't come, if they have a
Mhm.
conversation like, I need to come in order for it to be over.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Of course. That's like comes up like very, very often. You said so many things. I want to jump on all of it,
Go.
but
Jump on
but
me.
I would say even for 'cause again, most of my clients are cis het, right? Like them coming together. Like they have to orgasm at the same time.
Ah.
If they don't, it's a big failure. Like it's yeah, like they're always trying to like hit that together when the reality is that it's not like you see this in movies like a Titanic. Everyone's like, oh, it's like so steamy, and that's great. But the reality is like not everyone comes together. Sometimes people can only come from like oral sex or like man. So it's like you're doing separate things. You're kind of taking turns and taking care of each other, right? And lots of people, I think, in the same way, like when he comes, it's over, right? And then they think, and they count that as sex. So like just to jump into something kind of off topic but on topic, like if I ask like clients, do you have a satisfying sex life, they'll usually jump in with like quantity. They're like, well, yeah, we do it like 4 times a week. And like, okay, so then like what happens? And it's just like that, it's just like penetrative, he comes and then whatever, right? So then but like they're not talking about quality. So like not everybody's like having a great time, or it's only kind of one thing that's happening and it's really defined by coming. Like, and it's
Yeah.
if you broaden that, it can change things entirely.
But so you're talking about Hollywood's influence on it now,
Yeah.
right? Because I feel like the Hollywood thing is always it's not 25 minutes, it's probably 2 minutes, right?
Hmm.
And clothes are
Yeah.
still on, and then there's a simultaneous orgasm at the end.
Yeah. Simultaneous orgasm, very mystical. Like Titanic, it's like it's so funny that you bring it up because I remember seeing it in the theaters. And I saw it with my mom and my aunt and my sister. And the sex scene came on. And I heard my aunt, because spoiler alert, they're in a car, very misty, very steamy, and her hand comes up and like smacks the window and then it like trails like
Yeah.
off. And in my whatever how old I was, like maybe 12 or something, I was like, oh, they're okay, they're doing it. It's like really hot. And I heard my aunt, this adult woman, like lean to my mom and go, what are they doing? And my mom was like, they're having sex. She was like, what? They just look kind of like weird. Like,
Uh-huh.
is that what you're like struggling and I don't know. Anyways, I mean, it's sex is nothing if not this like sex is an activity I think that is influenced by so many different factors like movies, porn, relationships, like behaviors, hormones, bull, keep going. Like it's so nuanced. Like it's so rich.
So is the revolution reshaping this? It's getting these young people, right? Because
Yeah.
men and women have both been shaped by porn and Hollywood. Is it to
Yeah.
bring them back to something else or bring them to something new? Is it to go back to what our grandparents realized sex was before we were influenced by everything else? What do you think it is?
Okay, the romantic right. This is my TED talk, and this is where like it's my Roman Empire. I love talking about sex behaviors like broad human sexuality and yeah, I guess for your listeners like we've had two sexual revolutions so far and we're due for a third. We're actually kind of overdue because the two sexual revolutions were roughly 40 and change years apart and history has this funny way of repeating itself and it does do that. So here we are. If they were all 40 years apart, the next revolution would have been 2010. And I don't like throw that out there, like cast that net. Like I don't remember what happened in sex around 2010, but I feel like there must have been changes and shakeups or something like that. But I really feel like we're kind of in it now. And that was like my TED talk and the crux of it was that we're overdue for a third sexual revolution. You're saying, is it going to swing back to like our grandparents? I think it's going to swing back. It's going to swing towards wanting authentic connections, like in wanting real human interactions with each other and technology, which is like a big part of sex and influences our sex behaviors. I had to cut that out of my TED talk because I ran out of time, which is like so upsetting. But technology has influenced our sex behaviors forever. Every time we have a technological innovation as human beings, we use that technological innovation for sex, like immediately. So like starting with the printing press, we made the printing press and there was this immediate panic from like the moral right, the Puritans that were like, you're going to print dirty stories on there. You're going to use that thing for sex and we have to ban it to protect the kids. And everyone was like, oh, give me a break, relax. But the reality is like, we did that. We did that right away. Like we love sex. Like we love technology and sex. Same with the camera, same with the phone. All of this pushback, like you're going to use the phone for sex. You're going to make chat lines. Everyone's like, oh, relax. And then we do it. And then here comes the internet. And it's the same kind of panic. People are like, oh my God, you're going to have like unfettered, unchecked sex on that thing. People are going to be able to have chat rooms and porno is going to be everywhere. People are like, oh, chill. And then we do it. And we've got hookup apps and dating apps. And the internet, without question, has like really impacted our sex behaviors. It totally has. But we're not having that much more sex. Like we're not. Like as a society, we're really not. It's kind of like steady-ish. And as far as the third revolution is concerned, and you're like, are we going to swing back to the olden days? I think that we're seeing trends in online dating that's like changing. I certainly have seen this in my classes when I go to universities and talk about sex and consent and online dating. I see a lot of online exhaustion. A lot of I know like Tinder's got like a 3-to-1 men to women ratio. It's getting worse and worse. Bumble, same, women are deleting. So I think that there's a really big appetite for in-person connections. And I like everyone I talk to is like, but where? But where?
Yeah.
Like, where do you find the in-person people? And I feel like that's going to be like up to us. Like, we're going to have to cultivate spaces for that. I don't think the internet's going to go away. I think it's always going to be the thing that I don't think it's not going away. We're going to use it to meet each other. But I think we're going to have to change the swipiness of it all. Like, and
Mhm.
that's what I think is motivating the sexual revolution, is that there's a lot of like anxiety around sex now. Like, if you are authentic and if you are true, like if you are really vulnerable, if you expose too much, you're kind of just swiped away and ghosted forever. So I know that I can really feel this with my clients that are older. I can feel it with my young students where I'm talking about online dating, that there's a real desperation for like wanting something real. And a couple of months ago, I was delivering a workshop in a university, and this young man who couldn't have been more than like 19 or 20 was like, oh, like I want to meet a girl like in the 90s. Like, and that's my goal, is like, I'm going to meet a girl like in the 90s, how they used to. And his whole idea was, I'm going to use the apps. However, if she swipes on me, I'm not going to ask for her Snapchat. I'm not going to look her up online. I'm not going to do any research about her. I'm just going to kind of blind like a 90s person, because I just want to like know somebody like authentically for who they are, which I know is a kind of a long answer, but I feel like the third revolution, I think we're in it. I think it's like it's cresting. I think it's coming. I think it's really influenced by technology and our exhaustion with it, but I don't think that it's going to go away. I think we're going to use technology still, and I think especially in porn trends, which I talk about in the TED Talk, people are looking for real, amateur, mature.
Mm.
Romance was number 2 a couple of years ago.
That was
Passionate sex.
fascinating.
That was
Yeah, like
wild. I
it's
wasn't
coming.
expecting
That
that.
I know. It's like I think that porn is a very polarizing. I know you're banning it in parts of your country as we speak right now, and I do
Mhm.
think that we need to reevaluate the building of it. And I think that we should be changing the way that it's cultivated. I'll leave that there. But anyways, I think that porn is a catalog of people's desires, and it's a pulse check on society. And when society is like overwhelmingly looking at romance, passion, wife, husband, coworker sex, real, authentic, like I think people are screaming like, for God's sakes, like something real. Something
it's
really,
Mhm.
really
it's
real.
part of what, and it's interesting right now because you talk about tech, and part of what made OnlyFans so popular is that it was real. It was at
Yeah.
home. People were doing things that you weren't going to see on Pornhub because Pornhub didn't decide it was popular, right? And then now AI came out, and part of the
Mhm.
question is like, are all these guys who are paying for OnlyFans now going to go pay for AI girlfriends? And Layla and I have even talked about like me using an AI girlfriend for a week just to understand what
Yeah.
it is and
And then
what
we just
it's
like never
like.
hear from Brian ever again. He just like
It's
lives
like
under his
get
bed.
divorced. um, but like you said, like we take tech, we make sex out of it. But
Yeah.
to what you're saying, when I work with younger men, I'm hearing the same things you're hearing.
Mhm.
When they say I went on a date, and I naturally ask, what app did you meet her on?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't
Yeah.
meet her on an app. I just met her in life. I was like, where? Oh,
Really?
she was just sitting on a bench in a park.
Wild.
And I was like, and you went and said hi? Shocked, shocked that they did it. And he's like, yeah, I
Mhm.
just go and I just try. And I remember this is one guy I have in mind. I'm not gonna say his name, but his goal is I say hi to 5 women a day,
Oh, wow.
and
Mm.
I just make that
Okay.
my goal. And I would say like I get numbers about half the time
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's
What do
Mhm.
you
different.
with your sorry if I can ask.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. What about friendship? Do they talk about friendship a lot, your young male clients? Because friend zoning and friendship comes up a lot in my classes, and I have very big thoughts on that.
Say more. Do you mean like whether men and women can be friends?
Yeah.
You're also
I
asking 2 non-monogamous people. You know what I mean? So, like, we're both non-monogamous, so, like,
Yeah.
I think that probably
that
also adds an extra element, but what do you think, B?
Which means what? You think they can't if you're non-monogamous?
No, I think and I'm answering for you, Brian, sorry, but, like, I think that it's more difficult for people that are monogamous and that experience jealousy
Oh, I see.
and
Yeah.
haven't had the chance or haven't wanted to use any opportunity to work on jealousy and what that might mean for them and to because usually when people feel jealous it's a bad emotion and we're learned not to feel
Yeah.
bad, let's get rid of that entirely, right? But in
Mhm.
non-monogamy when you feel jealous you kind of have to like go into it more to learn more
Yeah.
about yourself, where's that jealousy stemming from, you grow as a person. But if you're monogamous you don't really get that opportunity very often. So I think maybe if you're in a relationship with someone, let's say I'm a hetero, cis male,
Mhm.
I have a wife.
Mhm.
I would imagine being friends with women wouldn't be tolerated
Right.
in most cases, right?
Mhm.
Is that kind of what we're talking about?
I think that's part of what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
I, I think that the space that I'm in when we do the trainings, they might especially if you do like they might be in this 3 month long program where they're with men and women. They're all trying to achieve some sort of goal in their life, and so they have
Right.
to be in relationship with people of the opposite sex because that's just who is in the
Yeah.
same cohort as them.
Mhm.
But there are rules in the training to prevent them from that becoming romantic or sexual
Oh, I
because
see,
we
okay.
want them to have these deep relationships. So I would say that for the young men that are in that training, they are developing that muscle, but it's not
Yeah.
explicit.
Okay.
And then when you ask the question, I don't know if I've heard it, but when I sit back and I observe younger people in relationship,
Mhm.
the way they refer to their partners is kind of weird to me. Um,
Okay. Like how?
like there's a young man that I know, he just graduated college, and when you see him talk to his girlfriend, he's like, "Hey, what's up, bro? How you doing?"
Oh. Okay.
And so it's almost they too much of a friend. You're also sleeping with this person. Why are you calling them bro? But that's how
Mhm.
they
Oh, that's
treat
funny.
their partners. It's almost like, hey, we're friends and homies first, and then in relationship on top of that.
I think
But
that's great.
yeah, I think
Okay,
that's great.
anyways, yeah.
I do that with
But
my
it's
husband
weird to
sometimes.
me.
Like, Brian, like, I'll have sex with my husband and then we'll high five and be like, cool, like, let's go get taco. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be like, oh, dude,
Yeah.
what the, you know what I mean? Like, I dude him and like, but like you said, Brian, we're really close friends. Like, he's my best friend that I'm also attracted
Mhm.
to. But to go back
Mhm.
to what you were saying, Sabrina, are you talking about like just let's say just a man and a woman that work together and neither one of them are in other relationships, but they work together. Are you saying that that's where guys are like, oh, I've been friend zoned by this
Yeah.
girl and that's where they're having difficulty?
Yeah, like it's not unusual for like young men to like complain that they don't have girlfriends, let's say, like, oh, I can't get, I can't get a date, I'm swiping, whatever, I'm swiping on everything, which isn't the answer necessarily. Like that's just you kind of like, oh, indiscriminately swiping on everything and like no bites, right? Oh, there's something else I was gonna say too. Or like the kid in my class who wants to meet a girl like in the 90s, right? I was like, well, in the 90s, we sat in classrooms in this exact same way that you're doing right now. Like that's really it. Nothing really changed in that sense. So like you could just like turn around and talk to the people around you. But then there's this like exhaustion with like, oh, but then like what if I get friend zoned? And I guess what I'm trying to say broadly is like, because you're saying somebody asks for like a bunch of numbers and sometimes he'll get five a day or something like that.
He'll yeah, 5 women a day, and he'll get 50%. 50% will get a number.
Yeah. And I don't, I want to make sure I say this right because I don't think that the purpose of friendship is romance. Like, I don't think the purpose of friendship is to date somebody, but I do think that if you are friends with lots of people, romance and girlfriends and boyfriends and, sex becomes more of a possibility. So I find it really surprising when people, particularly young men, are like, oh, I don't want to be friends with girls. You can't be friends with girls. Like, you just can't. And I'm always friend zoned. It's like, well, I don't know why you're complaining now that you can't get a date. If you're just friends with people,
Mhm.
like girlfriends have more friends. Like it's just kind of
Right.
a law of numbers here now. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think these men want to be victims. I think a lot of these men,
Right,
and this is
right.
just me hopping on a bandwagon. I probably don't need to right now, but like I think that a lot of these men will will act as victims, where they're like, "Oh yeah, I got friend zoned," and they'll be almost pissed off about it. But like you just said,
Yeah,
Sabrina, it's like, okay,
yeah,
cool. You're really good friends with this super cool girl who's
yeah,
maybe gonna hook you up with her friends because she loves and
yeah.
trusts you.
Yeah,
You know?
which is why when I teach in university level, like it still happens where I show up to schools and they'll be like, the girls are waiting for you, and I'm like, where are the boys? I don't
Hmm.
understand this. Like, why have we separated them?
Yeah.
Why aren't the boys here? I'm so insistent that everyone be in the same room because they have to listen to each other. You have to hear each other. And when if you're a young man as an example, and I'm not like coming down hard on them. It's just as far as friendship is concerned, I think that there's a lot of struggle there with young men where they're like, well, guys and girls can't be friends. And that's not all the time. That's not
Mhm.
all the time. It's just some of the time where they're like, well, if you're friends with a girl, you put all this effort in and then she doesn't like you. It's like, okay, you're not a victim because somebody doesn't, because you have friendship. Like
Mhm.
you're never a victim because somebody wants to spend time with you. Like and that's always a gift. That's like always a gift. And if you are talking about like if you want to have a, romance in your life, it just makes the most sense to have like cast the widest net as far as like different people, like I don't mean this in a way to like I just want to make sure I say it right and that like you're not using people to get sex. I just mean like doesn't it make the most sense to you that girls have friends, they have parties, you get invited to parties? Like
Oh, it's
no?
obvious.
Like
It's
it's
Right.
obvious,
obvious.
and then
Yeah.
she introduces you, or just to walk in a room with
Yeah.
attractive people makes you look more
Yeah.
attractive. But I
Yeah.
mean, look, I think one of the most fascinating things you said for me is that we're not having more sex. Like with all this
Yeah.
technology, we're not having more. And I sat here and I thought about that for a second. Like, man, you're right, because I didn't have apps in college. Even right after college, I didn't have any of these apps, and I was doing just fine. But I did
Yeah.
have social circles.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was meeting people. I
Community.
went to college, or like I put myself in this program. And so I think the thing yeah, it's possible for guys, but if you work online and then you don't go to the gym and then you just play Call of Duty all night, you're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
socializing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if you
And
just
I
get
think
out there,
for sure, for sure. I think I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think what a lot of men, and I'm not coming down hard on men, but especially young ones who just don't have a ton of experience. They don't have life experience, and that's it is what it is, and they're just trying to figure out who they are. But I don't think they realize that the best endorsement that you can get is the endorsement of another woman. Like if a woman is saying, "You got to meet my friend Brian. He's so sweet. He's so great," and she's telling this to her girlfriend, like that's huge because
Mhm.
there's this it's hard to even identify, and maybe you could fill in the blanks, Layla. It's almost like she's done vetting to some degree.
Yes,
It's not like you're
she's
on
vouching.
trial. It's not like men are on trial.
Right.
It's just I really would value your opinion as a woman over, let's say, my guy friend that's like, you gotta come meet my buddy. I'd be like, "Pfft,
Mhm.
whatever, maybe. Like, I don't know. But like if you
Mhm.
have these girlfriends and cultivate great relationships with girlfriends. Sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt you. I feel like you were gonna say
No, no,
something,
no.
Layla.
This is what we do. We're always interrupting each other. So like
Yeah.
this is because like we're having this is us just having conversation, right? But like
Yeah.
I love to wingman my male friends, right? So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I love going to bars with them and they'll be, kind of like, oh, I like this girl over here that I, kind of chatted with a bit. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like I'll go like meet her over at the bar and like get my Sprite. And I'm like, oh yeah, I saw you were talking to my friend over there. Oh God, isn't he amazing? Yeah. And also,
Mhm.
he's a firefighter? And I mean, he's actually a
Yeah.
firefighter. And I'm like, he's a
Yeah.
firefighter, and like, oh, he's so amazing. Like, ugh, if I wasn't married, anyway, have a good night,
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You're
then
like,
they end
what's
up
this?
talking again, right? They're like, oh, like a
Yeah.
cute girl also thinks that he's wonderful. So they're way more likely to, get each other's info after that, right? So like
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
is so important. If you're trying to get laid, like go out with the crew. Um, and
Yeah.
that's what we do like
exactly.
in our circle because like we are primarily, we're all non-monogamous to an extent, kind of like in our crew. What has your experience been in regard to this, new revolution that is occurring? Are you seeing non-monogamy as a part of that revolution?
This part also got cut from my TED talk because I talked too much. I only had 18 minutes and I could have spoken for 18 hours. Like I have so much I
Mhm.
want to say about it. But in my TED talk, at one point I talk about like spectrums. Like I talk about like the Kinsey scale, which I think is like the OG spectrum. Like 0 is exclusively heterosexual, 6 is exclusively homosexual, and then 1 to 5 is scattered somewhere in the middle, right? So that's how orientation is discussed in my field. It's like it's not black and white. It's very nuanced. There's lots of gray, and lots of people live somewhere in the 1 to 5. And an example of that, using porn again as an example, would be like maybe you believe yourself to be straight, but you catch yourself watching gay porn and you catch yourself watching trans porn, whatever. Does that make you automatically a 6 or whatever? The answer is you're flexible. Like it's nuanced, it's gray. And the reason I'm saying all of that is that I believe that monogamy absolutely lives on that same spectrum. It's the same thing. I am constantly encountering in my work people that I can really clearly see are zeros, and that's okay. That there's not I'm not judging, but are exclusively monogamous. I can hear it in the way that they talk. It's how they talk about desire, it's how they talk about their drive. I need to know this person. The routine satiates their appetite for sex. Like I love to come home to the same person. I love that he's always there, she's always there. and that's great for them. And then sometimes they're paired with someone that is very clearly a 6 and is like, like really struggling. The novelty excites them. They need more stimulation and they're like butting heads. Right. And then I think there's lots of people that are scattered somewhere in the 1 to 5. And, I've got lots of young male clients, but I also have lots of couples that are older. And I think they want to be together, but they're frustrated. And I think what's happening is that their monogamy is also on the spectrum. And when you talk about jealousy and your philosophy on sex, like what is that? Can you share in experiences with more? Can you love different people in different ways? I think it just like cracks this window open in a lot of people's minds that they were never allowed to explore. So I think non-monogamy is definitely part of that because I feel like at the same time, and it's so difficult to articulate since I feel so strongly about it, we see the policing and like the policing of people's bodies and relationships and rigidity is coming back. And it feels very scary. But then at the same time, like thruples and groups like polyamory is like headlines on Cosmopolitan and Newsweek. Like what the hell's going on here? They just don't seem compatible. And I think that the next revolution will be like one that is inspired by romance and authenticity, and that also just means like I'm gonna have the kind of marriage that I want and it's gonna be open and fuck everybody else because I don't care anymore. And more than that, and I'll stop because I could talk about it forever, because I just really feel like when you throw monogamy on a spectrum, like, and I've sat in sessions with my married clients, like I can see a lot of them, like it's like their brains are exploding. And then they'll have these conversations where they're like, I don't know that I necessarily want to sleep with other people, but I definitely want to be flirted with. I need to be wanted. Like, I need the attention. So they'll kind of like put themselves on the scale and be like, babe, I'm like a 3. Like I need to dress sexy, strut around. You can be there, but like I need to be checked out. And maybe that's the thing that'll scratch my itch. Like, and it helps. Like it helps the relationship a lot. I just feel like monogamy or non-monogamy, kink, cuck it, all these things can be so healing. Like it can
Mm,
be so healing for people. That's a
yeah.
long answer.
No, no, no,
But
and you talk
yes.
well, and you talk about authenticity, right? And, like,
Yeah.
I think that for me, non-monogamy and authenticity go hand in hand because 'cause I've always
Yeah.
been too much, too touchy, too, like, saying what's on my mind, too sexual, and,
Mhm.
I felt like I can be my most authentic self in non-monogamy. Like,
Mhm.
even when I was monogamous, I still wanted to sit on everybody's lap and I still wanted to
Yeah.
kiss all my friends. And like that's me as a person. Like I feel like the way that
Mhm.
I express love is, physical. And I like to get really vulnerable with people and have vulnerable conversations with men or women one on one where I'm like, who are you really? Right. And if
Yeah.
I were in a monogamous relationship, that might be considered something that was unethical. Right. To get
Mhm.
like that deep and vulnerable with another human being. And so you talk about people that are craving authenticity. I think that
Yeah.
that's where non-monogamy for me, where it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Or just
I
an
agree.
openness to try something better. I think that
Mhm.
something that came up for me, Sabrina, when you were bringing this up, is that my bachelor party was co-ed. I think my bachelor
Yeah.
party was 8 men and 6 women. Um, and it was a blast because it's just more fun when you hang out with men and women and you have both
Yeah.
energies in space. But beyond that, but what I realized is I'm also grateful to have a partner who was okay with that, who was
Yeah.
comfortable with it. And so I do
Yeah.
think there's this. Um, I mean, you just made a good point that there is this like revolution that is happening or can happen, but you have these two opposite forces where some people want it to pull back to make
Mhm.
it great again to back what it was in like 1910, and then you have this
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
force that wants to move it forward into something better. And I'm just realizing how much of um, in this conversation, how much of our opinions on things is formed by what we've seen, like movies and social
Yeah.
media, or like even if you are open. I mean, look, we get shit on comments all the time with people being like, "Well, no, what type of man would share his wife? Like, you're not a real man," or like
Yeah.
things they say about women, and like slut
Mhm.
shaming and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's still this. It's weird. It's like there are people that are experiencing something different, experiencing this freedom, and then this whole trove of humans that want to stop them. You know,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
making them uncomfortable. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So,
I
so
think
I'm
there's a
sorry
lot of
they cut
people
that
that
from your TED talk. That would
They
have been
cut that
a
from my TED Talk. Well, I
and
did it. I tested it, right? I tested it, and it's funny because I thought, and I want to be like respectful when I say this, but like the normals, like normal people that just aren't like exposed to kink and like all that stuff. I thought that monogamy on a spectrum would really light them up in the way that it lit me up when I kind of made the connection, and it didn't land very well. A lot of the normies were like, I don't know, is it though? And I was like, isn't it though? Like, do you not? I feel like it was really, and there were people definitely that were like, yeah, that should stay in. Anyways, it's a whole thing. If you ever do a TED
Yeah.
talk, there's like lots of group discussions and they're like, cut it for time. And I'm like, cut that for
man, I think
time.
Oh.
I think
Oh
there is if they're being honest, but maybe they're not being honest. I don't know how many marriages out
no.
there
That's
can
what
be
I
honest
think.
about it.
I think they're not
Mhm.
being honest.
But
Like,
Right.
if the cheating numbers are what the cheating numbers are, then all
yeah.
these people are full of shit.
Right.
All these people are full of shit. Like
Mhm.
if monogamy was so natural and so easy, then we wouldn't be screwing it up constantly. It
Right.
wouldn't be like, are you telling me that cheating and unfaithfulness and all that stuff isn't one of the greatest sources of divorce? Because it is.
Right.
Like, and if you had a different frame, if you put it on that spectrum, you're like, okay, babe, we're gonna I know it's not easy for everyone when it's the only thing that you know, but I
Right.
think at least making room for nuance, like make room for it. Just start there. Like, is it black and white like gay and straight? Is it black and white like man, woman? Is it black and white like faithful cheater? Are you going to allow anything in here? You know what I mean? That if you just like crack a window, it's going to make things better for you. Like it can
Mhm.
make it's less pressure on you. It's less
Yeah,
pressure on your
it's less
partner.
red tape. Like that's why I kind
Yeah.
of wanted to get into non-monogamy. It's because I feel like I've been surrounded by red tape my whole life.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
monogamy is it's such a little square, right? And like
Yeah.
I could go down rabbit holes of like how society and everyone wants us in
Yeah.
these little squares because it's much easier to control us, right? When we're in these little
Yes, of
tiny little
course.
squares, right? And so to
Yeah.
have this like sexual revolution is terrifying for society and for, the economy and some of these big guys' eyes, right? And I'm so just having
I
less
Yeah.
red tape, I'm like so much fucking
I
happier,
think it's
man.
kind of this thing, Layla, where like it can feel like opening the you said crack the door and cracking the
Yeah.
door. I think some people look at it like a gateway drug. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
what we all learned in Dare, right? When we were in, I don't know if Dare was in Canada, but um, start smoking weed, and within like 3 years you'll
Oh,
be
it
doing
rings a bell. It's a drug
heroin,
thing, right?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like weed's a gateway drug. If you start doing weed, then 3 years in you're doing heroin, right? And your life's fucked up. And
Yeah.
that's not fucking true. Some people just do weed, like smoke weed, and they don't
Mhm.
do
Yeah.
anything else, right? And I think when it comes to doing something other than non-monogamy, it doesn't mean that hey, you're going to open up the door, crack the door, and then 5 months from now, you're at some hotel in downtown of whatever city you are on,
Yeah.
wearing masks with 15 people. Like that. That it doesn't have to go
Maybe.
that way.
It could.
Yeah.
It could, but it
It
doesn't
It
have
doesn't.
to.
could.
It can
It
stop
doesn't have to.
whenever
Right.
you want
Well,
it to stop.
I think people don't realize, especially with when people genuinely want to open their marriages up, and it's a whole conversation. It sounds like you're very schooled in all of this. You understand it very well. So, and I guess I would assume your listeners probably know a lot more than the average listener. But um, when people want there's always like one person. It never works, in my opinion. I want to make sure I say this right. It never works, in my opinion, when one person really wants it more than the other one, and the other one's being pushed. Like, you have to both really want this. And when somebody is talking about wanting to sleep with other people in this like wear a mask 100 group sex thing off the jump, like I don't think they realize that, to your point, Brian, there's a lot of discussion, communication. I'm not saying that's wrong. Group sex, that's your pie in the sky. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is they hit the gas super hard. And you can see it happening where they're like, let's open this up, let's do it. Let's go to it's a really popular sex club in Toronto called Oasis. And I don't know who spread the word, but every older married person's like, Oasis, let's go, let's go. But like right away, it's like, hold on, okay? I think sometimes you can see the one person that's so ramped up that wants to open it up so badly doesn't realize there's so much discussion involved, so much boundary setting involved. There's a lot of checking in with each other. And I can see their enthusiasm wane. They're like, oh, it's like, this is what it's like. Okay. You
Mm.
can't just like, hit the gas so hard. Anyways, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it
Right.
takes time. You're talking about people and emotions and managing relationships.
Yep.
It's not, it takes work.
And see, I think that's a good moment to wrap it up because I think that's something people can take away actually from
Mhm.
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Like you don't have to because we treat that in life. You got to go all in on something, hit the
Mhm.
gas
Yeah.
full steam, and it's not a sprint.
Mhm.
Can I share one little story with you before you wrap up?
Yes,
In the
please.
spirit
Please.
of not hitting the gas right away, because I have lots of clients that want to have a relationship with kink, like broadly, and they just like don't know where to start. And they do that. They're just like, okay, I'm buying lingerie, getting a mask, getting a whip. You know, it's like, okay, stop, hold on, break. Okay. And I had this one lady that I worked with that really wanted to be able to talk dirty to her husband, but it was like mortifying. The whole thing was mortifying. She was like, I can't look him, I just cannot look him in the face and be like, come on me, I'd rather die. I'm like, okay. And we started with these like baby steps where I was like, can you say it in the mirror? Can you say it to yourself? Can you write anything? And she, oh, the idea of him hearing me is so, it's so like, I can't. Anyways, long story short, in the interest of like baby steps and finding the thing that's right for you, it ended up that I was like, write it down and like put it in a post-it note, put it in his pocket, like tell him I'm putting this in your pocket. You say you have to swear to God, you have to be 10 miles from the house when you read it. You cannot make eye contact with me when you read it. And he was like, okay, okay, that's totally fine. And that's what she was sneaking post-it notes and then not upgraded, but like started sending him text messages, maybe some voice notes, right? And then she had this real obsession with like, I need to be able to look in his face and say like super dirty stuff. But it was so hard for her. I'm like, I don't understand why you're hitting the gas so hard when you found this thing that is so exciting for you. And now your husband is, it's like some of the letters she was writing to him, she shared with me, were these like erotic, holy shit. Like they were spicy. Okay. And I'm like, you're
Ooh.
sneaking these things in his pockets and you're asking him to read it at work and you're I don't understand why, and he's so happy. He's so excited by it. I'm like, "Why do you keep messing with the thing that's working for you? Leave it.
Yeah.
Leave it." It's like you like it, you express yourself really well in print.
Mhm.
The idea of like a lot of people can't look in someone's eyes and be like, I want your cock in my mouth. It's too funny for them. They can't do it.
Mhm.
And that's fine. Who says you have to do that?
Mhm.
Anyways, I we struggled a lot because she just kept feeling like she was screwing the whole thing up by not being able to be more directly sexual with him. And I was like,
Mhm.
it's really personal. Sex is very personal. You
Mhm.
found the thing that works well for you. He's horny as hell when he gets these letters. He's all excited. I'm getting a letter today. So like, why are you screwing with a good thing?
Yeah.
Anyways, that's
Yeah.
my anecdote. You don't
I
No,
have to
love
hit the
that.
gas right away.
love it, love it. Like I want to know. So this is going to come out in a week, and then I want to put a story up, and I want to find out how many people wrote letters.
Or writes
Oh,
letters
like
to their
Like
love
partner.
who
letters to
know
each
who did it?
other?
Like they heard this and then went and wrote it.
Oh,
Went and like, put a note in someone's pocket or in the car
yeah.
or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
because
That's a
I
cute
that,
idea.
You can
I
make
never
them
thought about
think.
that.
that's the
Maybe I'll do
thing.
that with my husband. That's a really cute
Yeah.
idea.
It's
Yeah.
actionable. We can do
Or
that.
voice notes. Voice notes.
Yeah.
So she had this issue with eye contact. That's totally fine. I was like, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can just say or send him a little video. But anyways, she loved to write things down and she was a great writer. Like
I
I was
love this.
reading her letters like, oh my God, this is filthy.
You're like,
I
I'm
love this.
wet. Fuck.
Sabrina, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at After Sex Ed, but the E in sex is a 3 because I keep getting shadow banned.
Yep.
I'm Learn with Sabrina. Whoops, I'm Learn with Sabrina on TikTok because I used to be After Sex Ed there, and I got shadow banned there. You guys, I don't know how you're getting around bans, but you have to tell me one day.
We still
I guess
struggle.
you're not.
We still
You can go
struggle.
to aftersexed.com and I'm there. You reach out to me there. All my socials are there. Contact me there. And I have a podcast called After Sex Ed too.
Love it. We'll put all that in the show notes so people can find it
Perfect.
and find you. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah,
The-
thank you for
the-
having me. You guys, I make these little clitoris necklaces. Would you like one?
sure.
Yes! I was looking for
Yes.
that.
Okay. So then send me your email, send me your addresses in an email and I'll ship them out to you. And to anyone listening, you can buy this on my website.
There
So
we go.
cute.
We'll make sure everyone has the link. But thank y'all all for tuning in to another episode of the Unmasked Project. I'm Brian. That's Layla.
I'm
And
Sabrina.
until we see
Yeah.
you next time, try something or try someone new.